There's a moment when everything stops and your heart senses that something unique is about to happen. If you're here, it's no coincidence. An ancient calling lives within you, one that perhaps will be heard again today. You're about to cross a threshold that few have the courage to cross, and every word you hear is destined to touch a deep, secret part of yourself. Can you already sense the echo of what's awakening? Then let this journey surprise you and be ready. Because from here on, nothing will ever be the same again. You possess 53 hidden powers vibrating within your body at this very moment, and within the next 24 hours, if you follow what I'm about to show you here, they will begin to awaken, one by one. This is not a theory. This technique has remained hidden for centuries, and Thoth was the first to warn of it. When you remember the sacred name, everything around you will begin to shift, and that forbidden name will be revealed to you at the end of the video. But before then, I will guide you through an ancient, sacred process, step by step, where each portal that opens activates gifts you didn't even know you possessed. And if you think you've seen manifestation techniques before, you've never seen anything like this, because today you will experience firsthand what happens when the soul ceases to slumber and begins to command reality. So, take a deep breath, for the first power begins to awaken now. Remove from yourself what is unreal, and you will contemplate the truth with the eyes of the soul, for only that which is similar can recognize that which is similar. If these first words resonated with you, leave a like now. For me, it will be a precious signal, the most direct way to let me know that you too feel the same call to awakening that unites us. And if you feel this space reflects you and you truly want to support us in bringing ever greater light and awareness, consider subscribing to the channel. It's a silent but powerful gesture that allows this project to continue creating content that touches the soul, just like this one. The name has arrived, but not as just any word, but as a whisper that passes through generations, as something that is not learned but remembered, Samyama. A sound that vibrates differently in the body, as if touching a part no one has ever reached. An ancient code, a forgotten ritual, a practice so profound it was silenced for centuries so that you would never dare access it. This technique was never in self-help books, and never sold in bookstores, because it is dangerous for those who profit from your forgetfulness. Samyama is not something taught, it is something activated. It was known only to the initiates, men and women who silently traversed layers of reality unseen by the eye, for they knew a secret that modern systems attempted to erase. The power of attention is the key to breaking the limits of matter. But be careful, don't confuse Samyama with ordinary meditation. It's not sitting down, closing your eyes, and trying to empty your mind. No, Samyama is something else. It's an act of merging, when your presence becomes so intense that it begins to reshape the fabric of reality. It's when you fix your concentration on a point, maintain it, and move through it. Thoth knew this. He wrote in the emerald tablets that pure, directed attention is the sword that cuts the veils between the worlds. When you focus your undivided attention on a single object, with absolute presence, you activate inner portals. This is not a metaphor, it is spiritual technology, it is vibrational engineering. The Corpus Hermeticum describes this same process differently, as the spirits return to its original source through formless vision. Seeing with the spirit and not with the eyes, said Hermes Trismegistus, because the eyes see matter, but the spirit perceives essence, and this is exactly what Samyama does. It transforms perception into fusion. In alchemy, this process was called the fixation of mercury. The alchemist took the most volatile substance, thought, and made it fixed, solid, indestructible. For when you master your attention, you master the mental fire, and that fire is the same that moves the universes. Now you understand something important. Samyama is composed of 3 phases, 3 stages that interlock like gears in a sacred machine. You will explore these 3 phases later, but now let's begin with the first. This is where it all begins. There's no need to be in complete silence, wear special clothes, or repeat complicated mantras. What matters now is only one thing. Choose an object, any object. It could be a candle, a flower, a symbol, your breath, pain, fear, your soul. The choice is yours. The object is merely a mirror. What matters is what happens inside you as you observe it. Now fix your attention on that object. Don't look away. Don't think. Just observe. Allow your presence to enter it effortlessly. Simply hold it. Hold it for a few more seconds. See what happens. Perhaps a slight warmth, a shift in time, a faint sensation that you are not just looking, but becoming. If this is happening, then you have entered the first stage of samyama, the first contact with the invisible reality. What was outside and inside begins to merge. You are no longer observing the object. You are the object, you are the breath, you are the sound, you are the lit candle, you are the center of whatever is vibrating there. You have merged with what once seemed separate, and, at that precise moment, something incredible happens. The separation disappears. The world around you remains the same, but the way you perceive everything has changed. It is as if a veil has been subtly removed. The boundaries of reality begin to lose their rigidity. Time slows down, the body feels lighter, and for the first time, you realize that you are not simply alive, but awake. This is the first contact with the invisible reality. It is not a great leap, it is a silent portal that opens from within. And when you pass through it, there are no trumpets, no cosmic visions, but something far more powerful, a pure presence, a clarity that has never been there before. You know something has been activated, even if you can't explain it. Perhaps you felt a slight shiver at the back of your neck, or a subtle vibration rising up your spine, or that pressure between your eyebrows as if something were pushing from within outward. All of this is real evidence of the beginning of vibrational expansion. Because when fusion occurs, duality dissolves, and with it, consciousness begins to release the first forgotten codes. You're not hallucinating. This isn't a mystical journey beyond reality. This is legitimate spiritual science. And Thoth was one of the first to record this process, describing it as union with the form of the spirit. A moment when the eye surrenders to what he called the original matrix of creation, a state where there is no longer observer or observed, only vibration, only consciousness in motion. And when you enter that flow, the first gifts awaken. Vibrational clarity. You begin to perceive the energy of places, people, and situations with a clarity that transcends logic. You enter a space and immediately know whether it's in harmony or collapsing. Nothing deceives you. Energy speaks before words, sensing other people's energy fields. What the other person feels, you feel, but not like a sponge, like radar. You don't absorb it, you perceive it. You can tell when the sadness in your chest isn't yours. You begin to hear the invisible in the silences. Micro-perception of time. Seconds seem to stretch. You notice the intervals between thoughts, the space between impulse and action, and in those micro-moments, you gain freedom. You begin to act with awareness, no longer on impulse. Reading subtle energy, a look, a gesture, a whisper, everything carries energetic information, and you begin to read it like someone reading a language they've always known but forgotten. People's bodies begin to tell you stories they themselves can't even express. Connecting with living objects. A crystal, a plant, a flame, a stone, everything responds to you. You begin to sense the subtle presence of these objects as dormant consciousness, and this connection creates synchronicities that defy logic. This is the beginning of unlocking. In traditional alchemy, this stage is called albedo, the moment when consciousness is washed by the inner light. After nigredo, which is chaos, albedo brings clarity. It's like waking from a heavy dream and realizing you've been asleep the entire time. It's not the end, it's just the first awakening. Hermeticism translates this stage through the law of correspondence. As above, so below. When you merge with an object, with a focus, with a symbol, you are putting that law into action. You become what you contemplate, and what you contemplate transforms into you. And that movement, that exchange, that fusion begins to dissolve the old world you lived in. Linear perception, the belief in the rigidity of matter, the illusion of separation. Everything begins to fall away, layer by layer. And perhaps this is why many people stop here, because here comes the real challenge. Here comes the shock. What is about to become accessible goes beyond sensory expansion, beyond the enchantment with the invisible. This is where the soul enters a formless region where there is no longer any reference. And many, when they reach this threshold, retreat. But you will not retreat, because now the void approaches. And within it, the impossible happens. There is no form, no color, no sound, but there is something you have never experienced before: the total silence of the mind. This is the transition point. Most people live their entire lives without ever arriving here, because this is not a space achieved through effort, mental techniques, or control. On the contrary, it appears only when all the noise disappears, and all that remains is presence. Jacob Grinberg called it the space before thought. René May called it the frequency of the void. But none of these names fully capture what it really is, because it's not something to be understood, it's something to be entered. And when you enter, the soul takes command. In that space, matter no longer has authority. Emotions calm, logic stops screaming, and the body begins to listen. You're no longer trying to breathe, you are the breath itself. And in that state, miracles happen. Not because something magical appears from the outside, but because for the first time you've stopped interfering. Here, what was blocked begins to flow. What was hidden begins to reveal itself. Your cells literally listen to you. They react to the vibration of your consciousness, reorganize, awaken, and with that, something inside you is unlocked. Total empathy. You not only understand others, you feel as if you are them, but with balance. You don't lose yourself, you connect, and that connection opens doors that were once invisible between souls. Subtle vision of the future, not as a premonition, but as an early awareness of probabilities. You sense what's about to happen before it happens because your field is already tuned to the timeline that's taking shape. Receiving energetic information. You no longer need words, obvious signs, or explanations. You feel the information arriving through non-physical channels. It simply appears clear, direct, as if it had always been there. Spontaneous vibrational healing. Something in your body begins to adjust effortlessly. A pain disappears, a burden dissolves. Not because you wanted it, but because your frequency has risen, and what was too dense no longer has room to exist there. Spiritual hearing opens. Sounds not from the physical world begin to be perceived. Subtle tones, inner words. Sometimes a voice, sometimes an echo without origin. It is the field that responds to you. Bodily intuition. Your body begins to guide you with precision, no longer just your stomach warning you. A sudden warmth confirms something. You begin to trust your body's signals as a spiritual compass. Active synchronicity. The coincidences are increasing, but now you know they're not coincidences. It's as if the universe is starting to respond to you in real time. A thought becomes an event. A doubt becomes a timely response. Reading other people's bodily trauma. You look at someone and sense where the block is. Even if the person doesn't say anything, even if they smile, you know where it hurts, and that perception opens the way to true healing. A sense of purpose, not as an idea or a career, but as an inner certainty, a vibrational recognition. You know why you're here, not in words, but in your presence. You feel there's something only you can bring to the world, and that changes everything. These 9 powers are not external abilities. They are the reflection of a consciousness that has returned to its point of origin. Thoth called this the sea of silent infinity, a place without form but full of creation, because it is there that everything begins. In Hermeticism, this stage is known as kenosis, the fusion with the One, the moment when the spirit returns to its primordial essence. There is no ego, no identity, only consciousness resting as if about to be reborn, the void where miracles happen. Today, an ancient fire burns within you like a truth that can no longer be ignored. It begins in your solar plexus, just above your navel, the center of your vital power. The place where your fears were stored, where your shame was hidden, where guilt built walls. It is there that this fire touches first. And when it touches, there is no longer any way to lie to yourself. You begin to remember old pains you didn't know were still there, but not to relive them, to burn them away. This fire doesn't hurt, it liberates. It only consumes what isn't yours, only what was forced upon you. It doesn't destroy who you are, it destroys who you thought you had to be to survive. And in this silent yet profound process, 7 new powers emerge. Automatic emotional shield. You stop absorbing everything others emit. It's not a blockage, it's vibrational intelligence. You still feel, but you're no longer contaminated. Your field creates an organic shield that reacts before you even realize it. breaking repetitive cycles. What used to repeat itself in your life like an inevitable pattern. Toxic relationships, financial failures, internal self-sabotage, begins to lose its power, as if the script has been erased, because the trauma that fueled the cycle has been burned away. Fusion with cellular memory. You begin to access information recorded in your own body, forgotten memories, sensations that belong to your history but were blocked. Now they surface, and you understand. Releasing ancestral pain. Pain that wasn't yours, but inherited from your father, your mother, your grandparents. The guilt you carried without knowing why. This fire rises through the family line and begins to dissolve what has been passed down through generations. Activation of the luminous plexus. It's as if the center of your body is gaining light. A living, warm, golden vibration. You feel warmth without fever, an inner glow that grounds you. Fear begins to melt away, shame transforms into presence. You begin to inhabit yourself. Belief reprogramming. What you believed about yourself begins to crumble. Phrases like, "I'm not capable," "I don't deserve it," "this isn't for me," lose their meaning, because now there's a power behind every thought that doesn't allow for lies. Energetic mastery in dense environments. You enter heavy places and don't get lost. On the contrary, your presence shifts the field. You notice the energies, but you don't bow to them. You guide, connect, purify. Thoth called the center the inner sun, and said that only those who purified the fire could see without being consumed. For the plexus holds the key to what he called the solar logos, the intelligence that organizes chaos, the spark that reveals what is hidden. In Hermeticism, this fire is the reflection of the spirit descending into the plane of form, the light of the one attempting to reorganize the lower levels of reality. That's why those who activate the center radiate more than presence. They radiate direction. In alchemy, this stage is known as citronidas, the stage where lead begins to transform into gold, where consciousness, once obscured, begins to shine with its own light. It's no longer about deconstruction, now it's about revelation, and that revelation brings a consequence. When the fire burns and the light expands, the eyes of the soul open, and what they see tears the veil of ordinary reality. Not physically, but vibrationally, as if a curtain were drawn from the inside out. The world remains the same, but now there is a second layer over everything, a kind of transparency into the invisible. You are no longer looking, you are seeing. And this happens because the fire, after purifying the solar center, rises and touches the point between the eyebrows, the ajna, the single eye, the portal where the spirit begins to decode what was hidden in plain sight. This is where Samyama reveals what the physical eyes cannot grasp. You look at someone and, without knowing how, you feel, you read. The person's energy lies before you like a living, pulsating field, like a mist with colors, weight, and luminosity. You are no longer interpreting gestures, you are decoding frequencies. The first power manifests. Vision of the auric field. Each person becomes a universe, and you begin to navigate them. Sometimes with a glance, sometimes just through presence. Then something more subtle. Reading intentions before the speech. You feel when someone comes to contribute or to drain. Before the word, before the mask. The vibration reveals everything before the body acts, and with that arises the perception of the vibrational lie. It doesn't matter the tone of voice, the rehearsed speech, or a well-practiced pose. You sense the misalignment, the inconsistency between what's said and what's vibrated, and that awareness protects you from manipulation like an invisible wall. But the vision isn't limited to others, it also turns inward. You begin to have flashes not of memories but of cycles, karmic cycles, situations that repeat themselves across multiple lifetimes, patterns that go far beyond your childhood. And this restores the thread of your own story, not the one you've been told, but the one you've experienced as a soul. It's then that time begins to lose shape, and you enter a rare state, alignment with the eternal present. Everything is now. The past dissolves as energetic memory. The future ceases to be a matter of anxiety. You realize that everything you are is already here. And finally, the sixth power, the most delicate, the most difficult to explain. Access to your initiatory death. But it's not about dying physically. It's the memory of the moment when you, as a soul, crossed the threshold, when you chose to forget everything to live here. That memory arrives as a vague image, a muffled sound, an ancient touch. But with it comes responsibility, because now you know you're not here by chance. In alchemy, this point is called the center of inner observation. And it is where the light of the soul touches the matter of the spirit, where the invisible begins to take shape within you. And when that light touches matter, it begins to emit a sound, a voiceless sound, but one that resonates like a call. You don't hear it with your ears, you recognize it, and it is that sound that now begins to reveal the soundless voice and the name of your soul. Then that formless, wordless, volumeless sound becomes a name within you, not a common name, not one anyone could pronounce. It's more like a vibrational signature, a call that resonates in your chest and opens the exact space where the soul begins to speak for the first time in centuries. This name wasn't given to you. It belonged to you from the beginning. You chose it before your first incarnation. It didn't come from outside, it came from the source, from the place where all consciousness was forged with a single breath. And now, in this moment, it awakens. When you apply Samyama to this name, something expands. It's not an idea, it's an activation. As if each letter of the spiritual name illuminated a part of the subtle body, and the first thing that arises is a silent, profound, irreversible recognition. You know why you're here. The first gift that emerges is this recognition of your life mission, not as a beautiful phrase, but as a physical sensation, a sort of alignment at the center of the body that says, "This is it," and immediately afterward, you realize you're not alone. You never have been. Invisible forces begin to respond to your vibration. Small signs, clearer intuitions, and the path seems to open from within. And this is the second gift, alignment with invisible forces. Communication begins to change. You no longer need to translate feelings into words. You begin to perceive that you're transmitting a different language, a language without grammar, yet full of truth. You've entered the frequency of vibrational language. This is where creation becomes faster, purer, less mental. A simple intention already begins to shape the field. This is the gift of creation through pure intention, and with it comes clarity of purpose. You no longer want everything, you want what vibrates with your essence. This alignment activates a new channel, that of authentic spiritual channeling. It's not about hearing voices, it's about knowing what's right without thinking. It's as if the answer were recorded in the water of your body. The speech changes, the voice changes. Not just the external voice, but the voice that commands the field. Then the healing voice emerges. Words spoken with truth begin to vibrate in others like medicine, and this vibration causes the invisible to surface. What could not be seen appears. What was blocked responds. You manifest the invisible, and this is a power no one can take from you, because it arises from the name of your soul. This name restores to you a throne, the command of the subtle light. You no longer chase, you emanate, you attract that which already recognizes your vibration. The body also begins to respond, not as a miracle from the outside, but as an ancient technology being reactivated. Self-regeneration. Your cells receive new instructions and obey. And finally, you reach the rarest state of all, return to original consciousness. You remember what you were before everything, before time, before the body, even before the individual soul. And at that point, everything makes sense, not as I answer, but as I remember. You are the code. External reality was just a reading of your own internal code. Because now, as you apply Samyama to the state of unshakable trust, something changes direction. Reality stops testing you and begins to obey you. It's not forced obedience. It's resonance. The field recognizes those who vibrate without hesitation, who don't doubt, who don't beg for answers, but already emanate the frequency of the answer. And at this point, three powers arise that don't just operate within you. They structure the very fabric of reality. The first is the encoding of energy fields. You begin to shape the environment with your mere presence. Places harmonize, people rebalance, tensions dissolve, not through words, but through conscious vibrational emission. You have become a reprogrammer of fields. The second gift is conscious emotional alchemy. The emotions that once overwhelmed you now become instruments. Anger becomes momentum. Sadness becomes compassion. Fear becomes a guiding light. You don't repress, you transmute. The third gift is the most powerful. The vibrational collapse of physical reality. You realize that by sustaining a certain vibration, visible structures literally bend. Obstacles dissolve, and the improbable happens, not as magic but as a consequence. Thoth described this state as the moment when the initiate becomes a point of convergence. He said, everything forms around the central vibration. In Hermeticism, this is the pinnacle of the principle of vibration. The initiate no longer reacts to reality, he generates reality. Alchemy calls this the fixation of gold, When the elevated state is no longer temporary but permanent, you no longer enter and exit, you become the laboratory itself. But the great turning point lies not in knowing how to do, but in being, because what comes now is not a step, it is a return. You never forgot, you were only asleep, and upon awakening, everything makes sense. The gestures your body made on its own since childhood, the scribbled drawings that seemed to mean nothing, the dreams that returned every week, the sensations when someone approached, the phrases that escaped your mouth and you didn't even know where they came from. None of it was new, it was memory. You didn't learn these gifts, you simply aligned yourself with who you already were. And then, like a mirror clearing from the fog, the 6 final powers reveal themselves. First, the activation of stellar memory. You feel you've walked in other worlds, other bodies, other times. And the sensation isn't curiosity, it's recognition. Then comes unity with the universal consciousness. You no longer think of God as something separate, you feel that you are. Immediately afterward, the ancestral ego dissolves. That pain you carried without knowing why, that need to prove yourself, that identity tied to struggle, everything loosens, and the silence that remains is peace. And in that silence, a new kind of action emerges, manifestation through silent presence. Things begin to happen simply because you are there, you don't need to speak, because your eyes speak. Then comes the gift of vibrational transmission through the gaze. People sense your presence as a living code and are attracted to it. And finally, you enter into immediate resonance with collective fields. You know when something is about to happen, you sense the stirrings of the collective unconscious, you read the Earth's climate, the pulse of humanity. And here is where everything comes together, but not as an end, but as a return. Because if any of this has resonated with you, it's because something inside you already knew it, and those who awaken even for a second never go back to sleep. If you've come this far, it's because something within you has already begun to awaken. And now, if something on this journey has struck a deep chord in your being, like it, subscribe to the channel to stay connected to this energy, and write a single word in the comments, Dawn, to testify to your inner awakening and make your light visible among souls seeking the truth. I truly thank you for the courage and presence you brought here. I wish you days filled with authentic visions and moments when the dawn of your awareness illuminates every step. Carry this fire with you and remember, you are not alone. Your flame lights other flames. See you soon, heart to heart, in the space where everything begins again.